I'm extremely honored to be your keynote speaker. Many of you wonder why. Simply a middle school debate banquet. But to me, it is so much more. It is a celebration of your wins and your losses and the things you have yet to accomplish and the things you have yet to imagine you are capable of doing.
I'm from Newark, New Jersey, born and raised.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What high schools did you go to? I am also from Newark, New Jersey. Thank you for asking. So what high school did you go to?
University High School.
Whoa! I am also a University High School alumni. So, who was your very first debate coach?
My very first debate coach was Miss Fernandez at Wilson Avenue School.
Wow. So all the way from elementary school.
Yep.
That's amazing. So what got you into debate in the first place?
I initially went to Vailsburg Middle School, and then I transferred to Wilson Avenue, and so I transferred in the middle of the year, and so the only friend that I had, Melissa Morera, she recruited me to the debate team because we used to hang out, and she was like, oh, you might like debate, you like to argue with people, and then kind of just took a life of its own after that.
As you are now the director, of course.
Right.
Wow. New things we learn every day. So, what is the best memory you have while being in debate?
I think I struggle with this question because, there's so many good memories, but if I had to choose, I would say my best memory was when I went to Summer Institute at the University of North Texas, just because it was the first time that I had flown anywhere for a debate tournament, as well as I just had never been to Texas, so it was a life-changing experience for me. And really, I just feel like I learned a lot, and it was probably one of the points in my debate career that were really instrumental to who I became as a debater.
It sounds like debate opens a lot of doors for people.
I like to think so.
Yes, yes it does. What is the most frustrating memory you have while being in debate?
I mean, thinking of frustrating memories is a little bit harder just because you don't ever want to think about things that are negative, but there's one clear memory that I have is actually when I was in high school and I was a Lincoln Douglas debater. And I had just debated somebody from one of these elite private schools, and the judge actually approached Ms. Rosenbaum, my coach at the time, and told her that he didn't believe that I had written the case that I had just won that debate on. And so he essentially accused me of plagiarism, and I worked super hard on that case. So to be accused of cheating, I thought was incredibly disappointing and really frustrating as somebody that put a lot into the craft that I had tried to develop.
Yes, debate can be intense at some times. And speaking of highs and lows, what was your funniest moment?
My funniest moment? I have to think about that one. Define funniest. Just made me laugh?
Not only made you laugh, but just an explorable moment of joy. Something when you get older and as you continue to be a director, you can say, I can remember to tell you this one joyful story.
So really joyful story, honestly, is kind of geeky, but every year we do a summer institute at Frost Valley in the YMCA facilities in New York. And there was one summer where the entirety of the camp, or at least the instructional staff, was observing a spider essentially set up a trap for a bug. And the way that they set up this web, and all of us watched them from the beginning of the web all the way until the end when they had captured their prey. And I know it's super geeky and maybe not funny, but it was really cool for us, and that's something that I very distinctly remember is we had a lot of fun just being out there and doing the debate thing while being out in nature. You've been.
Yes, I've been there. Frost Valley is something that's truly amazing. So my next question to you is, what has been the best advice you've received?
The best advice I have received is to make sure that you document everything. Because in a professional world, without documentation, it might as well have not happened. And that's something that I learned when I was in high school, and it's helped me throughout like college, graduate school, as well as just my professional life, to make sure that there's documentation, citations in terms of like academic papers, but really making sure that you have proof of anything that you try to prove one way or another.
Yes, I am great to hear that debate has real world application skills. So my next question to you is, what is your favorite argument to run? And may you explain it to us and the audience in non-debate terms for us?
So I wouldn't say my favorite type of argument, but my favorite case that I wrote was when I was in high school and we were debating about high stakes testing, and which are like exit exams, like the PART that they take now, the different tests that are required to graduate from high school. And the arguments that I made were about changing education like fundamentally, and how we need to think about education as more than just giving students information to regurgitate on a test, and instead orient ourselves towards critical thinking and more of like an individual being able to resolve issues type of standpoint. And I learned a lot from the book Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire, and I felt like that argument really shaped how I see the world today, especially in terms of how I engage in my everyday activities in terms of as the director of NDA, but also just how I view education in general, is that it's about way more than simply giving you information to memorize, but more so helping you access a new way of thinking. And I felt like that topic in particular really opened my eyes to that.
Well, and I think you pretty much answered the next question, but what do you feel like debate does uniquely for students?
So I think that debate does a bunch of stuff for students. I think that there's always like the different research and studies that have definitively determined that debate is good for like critical thinking skills, organization skills, argumentative skills, etc. But really, I think the part that's super helpful about debate and about what it does is because it allows, or it doesn't allow, but it helps students access their voice. Because a lot of times we have frustrations, we feel ways about things, we have different emotions about things, and we have no clear way to articulate them. And so I feel like debate has been really helpful, at least for me, as well as a lot of the students that I've worked with, in terms of helping them find their voice and how to become an advocate, not only for themselves, but also for their communities and their friends and family. And so being able to make you a vocal member of society, I think, is super important, especially when it comes to today's day and age where there's so many problems.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. So my next question is, what about the Newark Debate Academy, and what services do you all provide to coaches, students, and the community exactly for those in our audience who might not know?
So at the Newark Debate Academy, we provide a ton of different services, ranging from assistant coaching support to different schools that are trying to develop their debate teams. We provide administrative and logistical support for any of the schools that wish to organize trips, from the field trip request process to the actual administrative process. We also hold summer institutes both away as well as during the day for different opportunities for both younger as well as older students. We organize professional development with the different teachers in the district, and our new initiative, the classroom debate program, is one where we try to incorporate the skills and the knowledge that you get from debate into everyday English language arts classes, social studies classes, and to try to use discourse as a way to help educate students. So that's just like a gist. Like, we have a ton of stuff that we do, but that's like overall like what we do.
That was a good summarization for that. So now I know that you are the director of Newark Debate Academy, but you are also my coach and also helping coach Rutgers. Can you explain to us how is it different between being a coach and a debater, and what's the feels of that?
I think that as a debater, the adrenaline kind of helps you get through a lot of the stressful moments, because when you're debating, you're in the heat of it, so you're not thinking about you know, how certain arguments might be falling into a trap or how certain people might be trying to set you up. But as a coach, you know, you're thinking about all of those things. You're thinking about how your debaters are performing. You're thinking about whether or not they're walking into traps. You're thinking about the judges in the room. You're thinking about the location of the tournament as well as the funding that it takes to get you to these tournaments. So there's just so many different things that you think about as a coach that I feel like are less stressful than when you're a debater, primarily because of the adrenaline of competition. Because sometimes, like, whenever we would lose, I feel like as a coach, I would take it worse than a lot of our students was. And I think you can attest to that, where the coaches really take a lot of the work and the respect that these students command incredibly seriously.
Yes, I will agree to that. So, speaking of coaching, what was your proudest coach moment?
My proudest coach moment? So I used to have a few, but it's changed recently. So this year was the first year that I had students that I've worked with all the way from high school graduate college. And so that's been a pretty proud coach moment to know that students that I've been able to like work with at a very young age then like went through high school, went through college, and now are going on to become like doctors and lawyers, etc. And to know that I was even a small part of that, I feel like is a very proud moment for me as a coach.
Yes, it does take a village to raise a kid. How do those experiences that we just recently discussed from being debaters to coaches differ from actually running the program?
So I think I touched on those recently in terms of you just think about a lot more different things. And so running the program differs from coaching and debating is because it's just more things to think about, because you need to think about funding, you need to think about do you meet certain requirements for funding, whether or not you've achieved your mission as an organization, organizational growth, development, and so a lot of the behind the scenes that you don't see when people debate and when people are competing is a large part of what's my job now versus when I was a coach, I was more on the front scenes, you know, at the tournaments, coaching the students, but now I think it's more based on what I do behind the scenes. You know, I still coach, but that's in addition to everything else that I do.
Yes, I completely understand that. So now that we know that you're behind the scenes, we're all wondering, what is in store for the Newark Debate Academy?
So there's a ton of things in store. One thing that I really want to emphasize is online presence. So as part of the show, you know, we're really making a push towards an increased online presence, both in terms of our website and social media, to try to promote a lot of the awesome programs that we have at the Newark Debate Academy. Because I think we have great programs that a lot of people just don't know about.
Yes, I totally understand that. So what is your fondest or first memory of the famous Brent Fran?
So I have a few actually, but the one I'll share is the one that I think a lot of debaters have, which is Brent doing the award ceremony at the debate tournaments, because he's probably one of the most animated people that I've ever met. And so to hear him like terribly pronounce students' names, I thought was a hilarious moment as a student when I was in middle school that I remember pretty distinctly from like way back then.
I totally remember a couple of times incarceration. That was mine. So, do you have any books or authors that you would recommend for anyone watching in the audience today?
So my favorite author that I'm reading right now is probably Octavia Butler. My favorite book is Kindred by her, and I would recommend that everybody read that book. It's a great book.
I think I'm going to go ahead and have to borrow that off for you. So, speaking of text, what is your favorite quote and why?
My favorite quote is actually also from an Octavia Butler book, from the Earthsea book. And it's funny because we went to University High School, but the quote goes something like, a phoenix, in order to rise from its ashes, a phoenix first must burn. And I think that that's something that's really meaningful, not only as somebody that was a phoenix in high school, but just in terms of new beginnings and being able to change things, is that before you can create new worlds and create new ideas, you first have to be able to break down whatever's there and then build from the bottom up, because you can't build on faulty foundation. And so that quote in particular has really resonated with me in terms of my professional and personal life.
Yes, I'm actually fond of that quote as well, Dirty Bird. So, finally, what are some words of wisdom you would provide to someone who is curious about debate, but not sure if it's for them, or not sure if that's something that will help them in their path of life?
All right, so I'm not here to like essentially try to force you to do debate, but the one like piece of advice that I would try to give you is to make sure you know your value and know your worth as a student and as a person, because there's tons of activities and things for you to do, but whatever you do, make sure that you choose something that values you as a student and as a scholar first before as a competitor. And so debate in particular, in addition to the laundry list of effects that we can prove that it's beneficial towards, is something that I think is really good for people to be able to come to understand and to know their own worth as students, and to know that there's power in their voice and their ability to organize.
Yes, Newark Student Union is a very good example of that.
Yep, started by a Newark debater.
Surely did. Fun fact. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have today. But before we go, let's play a quick game. It's called This or That. In this game, we will just list two things at a time that you, Carlos, will have to pick and personally prefer and explain to us why it's better. This is just a fun way for our audience to just not know that this show is just something formal, but something to get to know who they're dealing with and who is actually behind the Newark Debate Academy. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready.
Dun dun dun. Almonds or cashews?
So I like both as a debater. I'm going to choose both, but I would say cashews for taste, almonds for health. I think almonds are healthier for you. They have protein and fiber, but cashews are just tasty.
Disad or counter plans?
Disad 100%, because without a disad, counter plan is not going to win a debate.
Debate 101.
Yeah,
Chicken
can't
or
go for
beef?
a counter plan without net benefit. Otherwise, the affirmative wins on presumption.
Chicken or beef?
Beef. I like steak. Chicken is great as like a staple, but steak is just like amazing.
How do you prefer your steak?
Medium. I'm not a rare or a well done person.
Okay. Steak sauce included?
No, I don't like steak sauce.
All right. R&B or rap?
I think rap if I'm singing along, because I can't sing, but I can definitely like hit some bars, but R&B because it speaks to the soul.
Now, this is something we all want to know. Netflix or Hulu?
That one's hard. Not because it's hard to choose, but because they're good for different reasons. Netflix is good for the binge watching and like the all episodes at once, while Hulu is great for content that is released now. So you're more likely to stay up to date in terms of content, but not so much so that you can binge watch things. So if you're trying to veg out on the couch and like watch stuff, then Netflix. But if you're just trying to catch up on your shows, then I would say Hulu.
Thank you so much, Carlos, for partaking in this with us. It was a
Thank
pleasure
you.
interviewing you. And I want to thank the audience for being part of this show, because without you, we're nothing, and we are a family. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tune into us next time. And this is the Newark Debate Show.
Wait, that's it. You have to wait to 7 to move.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Countdown.
3, 2.
Thank you so much, Carlos, for joining us in our show. And thank you again, audience, for tuning in and being a faithful watcher. This time, what?
Come on, Evan.
It's okay.
3, 2.
Thank you so much.
No handshake. No handshake.
Carlos.
That part was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the handshake. I'm sorry.
This is all you. It's just continuing the scene, so he's next to you.
Okay, Kevin, me break.
Handshake
Kevin, me
me one more
break.
time, girl.
Break Kevin. Break me heaven. Break heaven. Heaven me break.
Okay,
We're almost done. 2 more minutes.
go ahead, count us down.
3, 2.
Thank you again for tuning into our show. That's all the time we have for today. But continue to like, subscribe, and be a faithful watcher. And again, this is Heaven Montague, your alumni host of the Newark Debater.
I go. I go. I go. I go. I'm really waiting for Science to say something. I go. Thank you.
And we hope to see you next time. Goodbye.
There's a whole back part.
Wow.